IT. We are recording.
Hey everybody, it's my birthday!
Happy birthday, Amanda!
Woo! This is my birthday song. It isn't very long.
Oh, that was the worst rhythm I think I've ever demonstrated. Sorry about that, everybody. I came ready too. This morning I was like, I was thinking, oh shoot, what's the song? My dad used to, or still does, I think, for every birthday that he encounters. They say it's your birthday.
Na 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 na.
It's my birthday too, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then I came unprepared. Oh, but happy birthday. Has it been a good one so far?
Yeah, I took the day off work, so it was great.
You got a facial.
And I got a facial. My first facial.
Ever? Did you like it?
I loved it.
What one did you get?
Vitamin C?
Oh.
I don't know.
I went in last time thinking, I can count on one hand how many facials I've had in my life. I can count on 3 fingers how many facials I've had. And I thought, okay, they're just going to like deep cleanse me, we clean out any weird pores. And immediately the lady, who was older than I am, was like, ooh, we need to switch it up, girl. You are older now, and we need to go to.
Don't want to hear that.
We need to go to heat sensitive, and like you have very sensitive skin to like heat, and so they couldn't do the steam thing on me. They couldn't do all this, and then I let myself get suckered into the diamond tip dermabrasion.
Oh my gosh, that must have been so expensive.
But I felt awesome. Well, my mom had given me a gift certificate, and so that I just basically paid an additional amount like I didn't have a gift certificate, and it was awesome, but it's like a once every 5 years
exactly
experience. So I have to go in and go, please shave 5 years off my life.
I'm jealous of people who can afford it all the time, though. It did feel really nice.
Good. I'm glad you got pampered.
Yeah,
you deserve it.
Well, if you're new here, if you are new, we will get to our topic eventually. We just always start off saying hi to each other. We're besties. And then we have a segment we call What's Haunting You, where we share something that's been haunting us from the week. So what's been haunting you?
Well, I'll spare all of y'all the details because I just told Amanda. But I have like not what's haunting me in a good way. Like what I've been spending a lot of positive energy this week is doing stop motion animation with little kids. It's
fun.
The best. Introducing kinder and first graders to the magical world of stop motion animation where they get to make inanimate objects come to life is the coolest. It blows their tiny minds. They cannot believe it. And no matter how many times I model it, they still can't do it themselves yet. But they'll figure it out. And it's just so awesome to just watch them pair up with each other. Well, I choose their pairs for this because I want them to mix it up. And sometimes when you're too comfortable with your partner, you end up just goofing. Yeah. As you and I know.
Yeah.
And so I pair them up, and every single class so far has just been like, not even a question. Like, yep, okay, they go to their partner, they film their movies, take turns being director and actor, and they're doing human pixelation this week. So where they make it look like a human is doing something impossible. And it's just magic.
These are great challenges for the kids. It's like artistic, and it's teaching them technical skills and
problem
really
solving,
cool stuff for
collaborating. Them. It's just awesome. It's the best job on the planet.
You're a good teacher.
Thank you.
Such a good teacher.
Thank you.
Okay, what's haunting me is I was at a equity training this week, and the trainer said something to me that's been haunting me all week. I've been thinking about it. She taught us about the concept called responsible, not my fault. As one phrase, responsible, not my fault, which means there are things in your life that are not your fault that happen, but you're still responsible for them in some way. So for example, an example at work would be you are walking down the hall and you see garbage on the ground. It's not my fault. I didn't put the garbage there, but I am responsible for helping make sure that the building looks nice, and I'm taking care of it, setting an example. So I'm still responsible for picking it up and throwing it away. And just that phrase, just as a teacher and a mom, it's been popping into my life like multiple times a day, right? Somebody's alarm doesn't go off and they're like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Right. It's not your fault. Maybe it is, but it's
right. Who else is setting that alarm?
But you're still responsible for arranging what you need to get there as on time as possible and communicating and apologizing. And you're still responsible for you're part of it. I don't know if maybe that resonates with people somebody who's listening, that you can kind of look out for that in your own life.
Yeah. It's really helpful with kids for sure, is and ourselves, but I think it's a good way for kids. There's so much passing of the buck. Like, I didn't do it. It wasn't mine.
Yes.
That's not me. Well, first of all, half the time or more, it is.
Right.
I watched you drop that on the floor.
Right.
Please pick it up. I didn't drop that pencil. I know, but it's right underneath your seat. Could you please pick it up for me and put it away?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think responsible, not my fault is a good lesson to keep in your back pocket.
For sure. For sure.
Cool. Well, I like that, too. Was it done yet? Was that the presenter? She's in Georgia?
Yes.
Yeah, she's great.
It was fantastic. You've had the same training?
Yeah, probably 3 times.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
It's my first time.
She's nice. She's very knowledgeable and cool. Was she in person or Zoom?
Zoom?
Yeah. Okay, well, this week is Amanda's turn to tell me a story that I may or may not have ever heard about. So
right.
She's got a smile on her face. I'm excited.
I don't know if
always excited.
We'll see how today goes. Today's topic is very cerebral. We're gonna have to get pretty thinky and put your smart.
It's only Tuesday. I should have plenty of brain left.
I'm also switching it up because usually I like to tell a story about somebody who's had some kind of experience, but this is different. We're gonna kind of talk about a topic.
Ooh, that's kind of like what I like.
Yeah, so I'm switching it up a little bit.
Okay.
We'll see if you like it.
And then I'll come at you with a personal story from somebody next time, and we'll blow everybody's mind.
And I have to apologize. It is my birthday, and I usually work on these like during the day, but
Good. I'm glad you didn't do a damn thing.
No, I mean, I have something, but it's not as organized as I would like. So we're going to follow through it. And
it'll probably be just like one of my stories where I spend days and days on it, and it's still, it's like I just threw up on the computer.
I love it. Okay. Have you ever had a coincidence happen that felt too impossible to be a coincidence? Or like the timing was too perfect?
Like deja vu?
Kind of.
Because I get deja vu every once in a while.
Well, we're going to talk about...
I don't know about a coincidence. I've seen my own doppelganger.
That's wild.
Yeah, I'll tell you that story sometime.
Yeah. Okay, well, today we're going to talk about a psychiatrist named Carl Jung.
Oh, Jung.
Jung. You know
Jungian,
him?
yes.
Jung?
Yeah.
What do you know a lot about him?
I used to know more because I have a master's in marriage and family therapy. So the Jungian philosophies and practices were something that we had to read about, if not practice ourselves.
That's really cool. I didn't know he was part of like modern studies because I find him really fascinating, and I didn't know that he was.
I mean, you read about and you learn about Freud. So
yeah,
like there's still Jungian and Piagetian and Freudian and lots of them.
Cool. You'll have a lot to contribute. You can kind of.
Well, we'll see, because I don't know if I could tell you exactly what he was about until you remind me of some keywords and phrases.
I want to talk about Carl Jung or Jung. It's spelled with a J. So, but I guess it's pronounced Jung because he has a lot of writings and research and thoughts about something called synchronicity. Synchronicity. That rings a bell for you, right?
Yeah. So it's like the reoccurrence of events or a lining up of events that, like you said at the start, are just two. I'm trying to turn our heaters back on, but I don't know if I can. That are just two.
I'm sorry for the editing you're going to have to do.
Oh, it's okay. Oh my gosh, let's just pull out all the stops. All the bells and whistles, go! Car radio, go! How about, can somebody call me? Or text, or start a podcast on my...
If it's your first time listening, we record in the car while my daughter's in dance class.
What was your first clue? Okay, hold on now. Stop it. Okay, I just want to turn off the car so we don't hear the engine, but still have seat heaters. Is that possible, car? No. Funk. Okay, well, I tried.
We're talking about synchronicity. Synchronicity. And Carl Jung. Carl Gustav Jung was born July 26th, 1875 in Kesswil, Switzerland. His father was a pastor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And his mother came from a family with mystical interests.
Interesting.
I don't even know what that means, but that's what it says on Wikipedia.
So tarot or crystal ball gazing or
seances,
dowsing rods,
seances.
Yes, because that was when was he born?
In 1875.
Okay, so this is post-Civil War where there was a huge spiritualism movement. So this is where there was so much. Civil War was one moment that this happened. There's been periods of time in history where there's been mass loss in American life. And so then people are just mass sudden loss of like a lot of young people, for example, like in a war. And so then they're turning to something desperately to maintain contact or proof of the afterlife. And spiritualism is where seances were born from. And table tapping and all this stuff.
Interesting. Okay, so he's got kind of two different really influential. I can't speak.
I wonder how his parents came to be together.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he has this dual influence of like a religious but distant father and an emotional woo-woo kind of mother. This is how he grew up. And that had a significant impact on his developing worldview.
Yeah, I bet.
I bet so. Yeah, I can imagine. He often retreated into his imagination. He had a very vivid dream life. And when he went to college, he studied medicine and psychiatry. One of the most pivotal relationships he had was with Mr. Sigmund Freud. You mentioned that. You knew that. I didn't know that. They had a strong bond.
Where everything with Mr. Freud is a your mom joke.
I know.
Or that's what she said. Everything ties back to sex with your mom.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Freud.
Bizarre.
Whenever I read about him, it just seems like a joke to me.
Yeah. He did have some pervasive or the ongoing ideas that have stuck and like I can get behind, but so much of it is just tied back to Oedipal complex and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Jung was interested in Freud's work because Freud was also studying the unconscious.
And they lived in the same part of the world.
Were they both in Switzerland?
Freud's German.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he's German.
Just over the Alps, I guess.
Yeah.
Freud saw Jung as like a younger heir and hoped that he would continue his intellectual work. Like he would be able to pass on that intellectual work to him. Kind of reminds me of like Willy Wonka and Charlie.
Giving him the chocolate factory.
Giving him the chocolate factory.
Here's my psychiatry practice. Aren't you excited?
Don't mind the little men, the little orange men.
I'd like to explore the psychiatry behind why you have all little people hired for you. Fair practices and all.
Well, unfortunately, Lindsay, their relationship went sour.
What happened?
They just had different. As Jung was developing his theories and Freud was developing his theories, they went different paths.
They diverted.
Like two trails diverge in a yellow wood, kind of.
Yep.
So Freud was
in a yellow wood.
That's from a poem, but now
I know.
Like
but Frost is it a yellow? It's Walt Whitman.
Walt Whitman too.
But is it a yellow wood? What's a yellow wood?
I don't know.
It's two.
Now I gotta look it up. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood. Two paths, and I
yellow wood.
And I, being of something, took the one less travel. I took
one less travel. Yellow wood.
What's the name of the poem?
I don't know. Let me look. It is a yellow wood.
Hey, what? Amanda for the win, birthday girl. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood.
So okay,
and read it. And I, being of
and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
I think it's the last line that I remember, the very end. Yeah.
No, you remember the first line and the last. You remember the very first and the last. You put them together. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I just remember two roads diverged in a wood.
Cool.
So, wow, good work, Amanda. Wow. That's my favorite type of poetry. I love Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
He's great.
I love Stephen Crane, but
just kidding. That's Robert Frost.
You
were right.
Our double birthday win.
Holy crap! I've always attributed that to Walt Whitman. I'm so sorry, Robert Frost.
Okay, so Freud and Jung had this wonderful father-son kind of relationship, but they fell apart. They fell out of sorts with each other because Freud was adamant that it was sexuality that was the primary motivator of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And Jung totally disagreed, and he believed that unconsciousness had a broader range of forces, including spiritual ones. So they parted ways, and Jung began his own journey developing analytical psychology. After they broke up, it was really hard on Jung. It was like kind of an upheaval for him. It really affected him like a breakup would. But ultimately, it led to the creation of his own psychological framework. And he wrote in his autobiography, I'm going to have you read just this quote from his autobiography here.
Okay, so from Carl Jung and the Concept of Synchronicity. I had to leave him, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I was convinced that I could no longer work under Freud's domination because our views were too different. Oh, and that's from Memories, Dreams, Reflections, page 136. Okay.
This time when I used
domination,
wow.
I
know it almost sounds like there's
that's like
story
when
there.
you grow up, like truly like a father-son thing, where you grow up and you realize you can think for yourself and you don't agree with the sort of the value system of your parental units, and so you just gotta leave and cleave. Interesting. Okay.
So he's on his own now, and this is where he really firmly develops the concept of synchronicity. So he is the early 20th century, and synchronicity, according to Jung, is the meaningful coincidence of two or more events or phenomena that are not causally related, but appear to be connected in a significant way. And we're start thinking about things that maybe have happened to you, because I'm going to ask all of our listeners and everybody to think about moments when synchronicity happened to them.
Okay.
These events of synchronicity, they have like a deeper, almost spiritual meaning, and they can feel too perfectly timed to just be coincidence. Okay, and here's what's cool. Oh, this totally ties into the telepathy tapes that we've been obsessed with.
Okay.
So the concept of Jung's exploration of the unconscious, he believed in the possibility of a shared universal consciousness.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Same. Okay, I did not know that about him. That's awesome.
That didn't come up at school? Like, what did they teach you?
I don't remember that. Well, that's the thing, is I don't really even remember. I'd have to go through his framework and see which part of this were we trying to apply or learn about, because I don't remember the synchronicity bit. I definitely don't remember the like collective consciousness bit, because I would have been like, yeah, that's my dude.
I know.
Or maybe I wouldn't have, because that was a different time in my life.
Right.
But I think I would have been really drawn to that. So I don't remember that. We probably just focused on his relationships and how people relate to one another.
So I'm going to now tell you some examples of synchronicity coming up in people's lives. And you can be thinking of something maybe that...
Okay. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm chewing on it.
So one of the most famous personal experiences that Jung had, he had a patient who came to him and was extremely skeptical of him and all of his things that he believed, which I don't know why you would go to a doctor anyway if you're feeling that skeptical.
Except for a challenge. That's weird. I'm going to pay you even though I don't believe in anything you do, you flim-flam artist.
Exactly.
Take my wallet.
I do. That's what she said. We need to call people flim-flam artists.
Oh, it's the best. I heard... I've been tossing it around in regards to our president, because I listened to Stacey Abrams' podcast, Assembly Required, and it's great because it just lays out what's going on and what the impacts might be on the American people, and how we little things we can do to help. And she is an amazing politician and incredible lawyer and just awesome, but she's like, he's a flim-flam artist where it's like a little over here, look over here, but now I've got this in my hand, and he's just like,
and he's got so much going on.
He's a charlatan.
Yeah. So this woman did not trust or believe in Jung, but some reason she comes to him, and he's working with her and trying to get her to open up, and he shares with her this story about a golden scarab, which is a symbol of transformation and renewal in Egyptian mythology. As he's telling her the story, at that exact moment, a beetle, which is like a scarab, flies in through the window, sits on the windowsill, and is just like sitting there staring at this woman.
Cool.
So he writes about that in his journal, but it was so uncanny. The coincidence was so uncanny to the patient that was her breakthrough method. That was her breakthrough moment where she was like, oh, okay, maybe Jung is onto something about the universe and shared consciousness kind of being a part of our experience here on the planet. Yeah, so here's another quote from Jung.
So yeah, anytime you have that moment of like, did you just see that? Did that really just happen? And then we're like, no way. I mean, that happens to us all the time.
Happens to us all the time, and it's like what happened with the tarot reading in our last episode.
Well, and every time we guess what each other's going to talk about.
Yeah.
Although this time I couldn't have. Alrighty. The coincidence, quote, the coincidence of the scarab with the emotional situation of the patient had a profound effect on her. The emotional state was lifted by this symbolic event, and she was able to open up in a new way. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I remember working as a therapist, and so much of it was, I mean, it felt sometimes like a hope and a prayer, or a whistle and a prayer, or a throw a dollar in the fire and hope for something better. I don't know. Just there was a lot of like, I don't know what's going to stick. I don't know what's going to break through. But I ended up writing my thesis on the power of vulnerability. It was the moments that my clients would break down and cry, that catharsis moment that moment of emotional vulnerability would be a catharsis a lot of the time. It was a huge turning point in their life. Sometimes, and I had most of the time had nothing to do with it. Like they would come to me sometimes. The very first one was a big emotional breakdown. Or other times we'd be meeting for 12 weeks and it would be the 13th week where something would snap, probably or possibly a synchronous event happened maybe that triggered that response, and then they just happened to see me that day. So, but there was always a major shift after like an emotional cleansing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And that there's an emotional piece to the synchronicity that Jung is describing. It's not just a random thing happening that seems out of place, out of coincidence, but it's also that emotional feeling that you have where you're like,
you recognize
really
it as
recognize
trippy.
it and feel and feel drawn to it. It can be here's another example. So my mom, whenever I see a pine cone, I think of my mom because I have a really funny story. My mom used to collect pine cones and get them from, like, she'd mail order them, and she'd make these beautiful wreaths, like Christmas wreaths, out of pine cones. Well, one day I'm sitting in my high school, Capitol High School, Olympia, Washington, sitting in the classroom, and somebody goes, "Hey, Amanda, isn't that your mom out on the lawn?"
She was gathering pine cones?
My mom, who's my age now, right? She was my age. I can't even imagine. She was like right outside the school window, bent over in like her sweatpants, picking up pine cones on the school grounds. And all my friends were like, "Oh, your mom's out there. What's she doing?"
Okay, well, I'm going to burst your bubble, though, a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is the science nerd in me.
Okay.
We don't have pine cones here.
We don't have pine. Well, what was she picking up?
Fir cones.
Fir cones.
From fir trees. Pine trees are up in mountainous regions.
Okay, well,
because
I didn't know that. I always thought they were pine cones.
And the way I remember that is somebody, and I don't remember who told me the story and who it was about, but I do remember that, like, that's how I'm always going to remember it. Was somebody told their son or their child, "I'll give you a nickel for every pine cone you pick up out of the backyard." And it was just, the kid was like, yes, because it was just littered.
Yeah.
Picked up every single one, brings bucket loads in. And then they're like, "Well, it doesn't look like you made anything today." What? Yes, those are fir cones. And this is why it's important to know what you're doing.
Well, that's good. Now I know. Thank you for the info. Yeah.
But yeah, and you've talked about maybe wanting to get a tattoo at some point.
I do. Well, she would also order pine cones because she would
that's why
them
she
through
would
the
order
mail.
them, is because she couldn't get them here.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah,
okay.
And I've been wanting to get
So she maybe used a combination of fir and pine cones.
It was and all kinds of cool, like, tree cones from, like, other parts of the world.
So rad.
And they were really pretty. She was fun, but so my mom has passed away, and here's the synchronicity piece. So there will be times in my life where I'll be talking about my mom or thinking about her, and then a pine cone will just appear. Maybe I turn a page in a book and there's a picture of a pine cone, or maybe
she's just like,
it's on the TV, or it's so not only is it a weird coincidence, but it's also got that emotional reaction in me. So I think that's a good example of a synchronicity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I think that it's got a broad range of definition, but you could put
I think
it in
a
that
lot of
category.
people can relate to the feeling of getting some sort of sign from a deceased loved one.
Yeah.
In the form of a cardinal bird or a butterfly,
Yeah.
dragonfly, hummingbird, those kinds of things. I know my mom listens to the podcast, so hi, Mom. And also, she's always loved hummingbirds, but she uses the Spanish word colibri. And so when she passes away, I'm totally getting an awesome rad watercolor hummingbird tattoo. But I suspect that she's gonna send me hummingbirds every once in a while.
Right.
Which I hope you do, Mom. That'd be hilarious and awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah. Do what you can. Do what you can. Start planning now.
Yeah. I think these synchronicities can be really like special and magical, and
I'm gonna send dolphins to my kids, which will be a little harder.
That'd be a little harder. It could, like with the pine cone,
but
it could just be a
pictures or
picture.
images. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are new, if you're listening, and this is your first time hearing about synchronicity, for me, the first time I heard of it, it was like kind of like a shift in my experience in the world, because I was more aware of synchronicities after learning about it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see what I'm talking about, and then you need to report back to us. You'll turn off this podcast and you'll start to see things that are like, whoa, that can't be coincidence.
Yeah. Or like if you have a favorite number,
Mm-hmm.
and oftentimes, like my favorite number is the number 33, and I don't know why, but it's always been my favorite number ever since I can remember. And I will see the number 33. It's wild how many times that number pops up. But then there's also that phenomenon of when you're in the market for a certain car, all of a sudden you see those cars
everywhere. Yep.
Or hair color, or something that you're considering and you're studying, you're researching. The universe will just like make it pop off the page.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go. And I don't know if that's part of synchronicity or if that's just a hyper awareness.
Yeah.
Due to whatever your decision you're trying to make.
I don't know. Maybe there's some crossover between the two.
It's fun though. I love synchronicity.
I do too.
There's a movie called Synchronicity, isn't there?
Is there a rom-com?
It sounds like it would be a Sandra Bullock
wait,
one.
I have to guess. I think I know. It's John. Well, who's the guy who like held the radio up in your eyes?
Oh, the classic
John
grand
Cusack.
gesture.
John Cusack, and I'm gonna do it, Lindsay. It was the girl who was in all those vampire movies, who's really pretty, Kate Beckinsale.
Oh.
Tell me if I'm right.
I'm looking.
It's my birthday, so I'm on fire with Robert Frost and everything.
Okay.
No. Then edit it out if I got it wrong.
Unless there's a different synchronicity. So 2015.
What I'm thinking of, maybe it's called Serendipity. Will you look up Serendipity?
That's Serendipity. Yep. Yep. And I think I'm thinking of Serendipity too, actually. But there is a movie called Synchronicity. A physicist who invents a time machine must travel back to the past to uncover the truth about his creation and the woman who is trying to steal it.
Okay, but
so
is that like a synchronicity? Doesn't seem like it kind of aligns. That what you just read doesn't really align with.
Well,
Carl
I mean,
Jung.
that was just the one sentence synopsis. I guess it's hard to.
Well, we'll have to watch it.
Yeah,
let's watch it.
It's intriguing, with actors I've never heard of before in my life. Oh, except for Michael Ironside. Oh, he's so creepy.
Can I see a picture?
He's in 6888, which I just watched. Have you seen 6888? Oh, you gotta watch it.
What's it on?
It's on Netflix. True story of the first and only Black all-women's battalion.
Oh wow!
In World War II, and what they went through and what they did.
Need to watch
and
that.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. But a story that I was angry I had never been taught. Never even heard of it before. Cool. I watched the Netflix series.
I have one more example of synchronicity to share, and it comes from our.
I mean, as many as you got.
Well, do you remember that documentary that we both loved called Hellier?
Yes.
If you haven't seen Hellier, if you're listening, you haven't seen Hellier.
It is bananas.
Go to Amazon Prime and watch it. There's 2 seasons. It is incredible, and part of why it's incredible is there are all these synchronicities that happen as they're like they go on an adventure, kind of a paranormal mystery investigation. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
It doesn't end that way because they follow this trail of synchronicities and they end up in a whole different adventure than they thought they would be on when they started. But there's this tin cup
Oh,
in the documentary. There's a tin cup, just an old, like, you know, a tin cup that your Campbell's soup comes in.
Like for camping.
For camping, a little tin cup. And this tin cup, it's not the same cup, but they keep running into tin cups along their journey.
Weird. I forgot about that.
Yeah, in a really weird synchronicity kind of way. So they'll be, for example, it kind of becomes a clue.
Like they're on the right track.
So they'll just be out on a hike or whatever, kind of lost, kind of like, where do we go next? I don't know. And then they'll see a tin cup, and
That's so bonkers.
And they'll follow that, and then they'll have like this incredible paranormal experience. They'll talk about it, they'll investigate it, and then a little bit later, they'll run into another tin cup. Isn't that crazy?
So bizarre. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. So there was a lot of symbolism with the cup, and it just absolutely extraordinary circumstances that it pops up in. I definitely recommend. Anyway, that was pretty much my story of Jung. If you want to know more about him, like, he went on to get married. He had 5 children with this woman named Emma, and he thought of her as a great confidant, and she helped him with his research. However, he had other mistresses on the side.
No!
Yes. One of them was named Toni Wolff, who was one of his collaborators and intellectual partners. So she was like the secretary you're having an affair with who helps you at work too. And he said a bunch of those, and he's quoted as saying, I was always aware of my need for a woman's presence.
Okay. Like, me too, buddy. But I'm not sleeping with him. Like,
you know.
What?
I don't
that
like
doesn't
that.
even make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It sounds like he's trying to be like flattering of the female species and like appreciative. No, you've objectified them. Because it's not about relationship to you. It's about you just, when you want to have a woman around, when you want to touch a woman, there better be one right there at your disposal.
And then he can excuse it off like, well, I can't be intellectually brilliant without one, so.
Well, that's probably true.
That excuses my affairs because I just always have to have a woman with me.
Dummy. What a dummy. So small. So small. So caveman. I want to look and see his framework real quick.
You can see his framework. Yeah, it's maybe something that you could, I guess people study him, like you said, in college, so that's cool. He also was really into traveling. He traveled extensively to India, Africa, American Southwest, and like on those travels he's learning about and comparing religions, mythology. He's like really fascinated by all the cultures he encountered, and he integrates elements and symbolism of all their philosophies into his theories. He kept working until his health declined in the 1950s, and he passed away in 1961 at the age of 85. And his legacy is pretty enormous.
Yeah, the 2 things I remember are about projection and individuation.
Well, thank you, Carl Jung, for all these awesome insights that we still use today and think about. You're pretty cool other than the affairs.
Well, and I'm going to look and see if, just to be safe, was Carl Jung problematic beyond, obviously, just as if these affairs weren't enough.
Uh-oh, do you want to share the negative
First
stuff?
word I see, racism.
Oh, yeah. I assume that's...
I like to just give a well-rounded sort of, you know, if we're saying thank you, Carl Jung, I also want to make sure that we...
Don't thank him for that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, like all these videos, was Carl Jung an anti-Semite? Carl Jung's outdated beliefs about race. Carl Jung was a bad guy.
Oh, no.
Was Carl Jung a Nazi sympathizer?
Well, this episode is not really to glorify him, but more of his...
That concept of
synchronicity. Because that's your homework. Your homework is to look for these profound coincidences, these synchronicities in your life, and tell us what they are, because we think it's a really fascinating topic.
Yeah. Yeah, where you're like, I call it the do moments.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, woo.
That podcast comes out good.
That was fun.
Different than our usual one.
Totally different.
Different tone. Class dismissed.
And don't open the door.